Hey guys, it's Atheist for the Cause here, and I just wanted to bring some Young Turks stupidity to your day, so here we go. We don't know with certainty if what Donald Trump Jr. did is illegal yet, but one thing is settled. He set out to collude with the Russians. Now, this is very interesting because Mr. Cenk Uygur, what did you say previously? Let's go over it.
So Donald Trump Jr. Has basically admitted that he did take a meeting with a lawyer connected to the Russian government, and he did it for the purpose of trying to get dirt and opposition research on Hillary Clinton. Now, is that illegal? Well, some think that it is not just illegal, but potentially treasonous. So first we go to one of the most esteemed law professors in the country, Lauren.
All right, so he's definitely pushing this idea that it is illegal, but not only illegal, treasonous with, capital punishment laws.
Tribe. He says it doesn't matter if he didn't actually get the information.
Or punishments, I should say.
Attempted theft of a presidential election in collusion with Putin is a serious felony and a high crime against the state. So, because...
Oh, but why would you be pushing that when we don't know if it's illegal?
One of the very poor defenses that Donald Trump Jr. has put forward is, well, it turns out she didn't have the information I was looking for. And now legal experts are trying to clarify to Donald Trump.
I've covered this in past videos. That's actually a reasonable defense because according to even left-wing media outlets, you need two things, according to their lawyers. You need, for any sort of illegal activity or something, you need that for him to actually have gone to solicit, which he didn't, he was solicited, and for him to actually gain something of value, which he didn't. So, like conspiracy to collusion is not some sort of crime.
Trump Jr. belatedly, that you could have a conspiracy to get that information even if you didn't get it. That's still a crime.
So no, it's not. What you just said. You don't even know that collusion is a crime. Now you're talking about conspiracy to collusion being a crime.
For example, if you and several other people decided that you were going to rob a bank, you made a plan and you took action to rob that bank.
He's not robbing a bank. This is where analogies fail. Robbing a bank is directly illegal, and yeah, the analogy is basically a false equivalency here. The fallacy of the analogy.
It was closed that day. You went back home. You've actually already committed a crime. So in this case, he's like, well, I went to go get stolen goods, but she didn't have them. Well, how unlucky of me.
Yeah, planning to rob a bank is illegal. Meeting with someone to talk to them who has solicited you saying they want to talk to you because they have information for you is not a fucking crime.
Okay, I don't know, man. So Richard Painter, former ethics lawyer for George W. Bush, says if he intended to get illegally stolen private information from the Russians, it was illegal for him to attempt to do so.
There was nothing in it that said that the publicist said nothing about there being illegally stolen private information.
So, just like buying stolen goods from a known fence. Now, Richard Painter is not going to stop there. He's coming with a...
Of course not. When you hear Republican, you have to look at what type of Republican they are. A lot of the old Bush era, neocon Republicans, they've kind of split into two categories. The category that's supporting Trump, or at least not completely Trump hating, and then the side that wants to work with him a little more. And then there's the side that like literally wants to get him impeached. And so if it's like, oh, a Republican, yeah, well, this Republican is constantly, that they're going to bring in, is constantly critical. That's their strategy because Trump is a threat to the establishment, and right now these neocons control the establishment.
2x4 here. Here,
or I should say previously, so the neocons are, the ones that are losing their power from Trump taking office.
he is on television.
Donald Trump Jr. And Jr Kushner were apparently both of them involved in this. And this was an effort to get opposition research on an opponent in an American political campaign from the Russians who are known to be engaged in spying inside the United States. We do not get our opposition research from spies. We do not collaborate with Russian spies unless we want to be accused of treason. And I can say I worked for 2.5 years as the chief ethics lawyer of the Bush administration.
Okay, so number one, this was not a Russian spy that we know of. He's just adding that as extra information. This was a quote-unquote Kremlin-connected lawyer. Okay, so how is the lawyer actually connected to Russia? This is a Russian national that happens to have some clients that are involved with Russian state-owned businesses. So it's not even that strong of a connection, to be honest. And so this whole line of reasoning that she's some sort of spy or something, I mean, there's no way to say that she certainly isn't a spy, but there is no evidence that she actually is a spy.
The Bush administration never would have tolerated this.
And there's certainly no evidence that he knew she was a spy or anything like that. If she was a spy and went undercover and, fooled Donald Trump Jr., he would have just simply have been fooled. There would be no intent there. He'd be doing nothing wrong once again. He'd simply be fooled.
And if this story is true, we'd have one of them, if not both of them, in custody by now, and we'd be asked.
So this guy's not only saying Donald Trump Jr. could get in trouble for treason, but also Jr Kushner. Yeah, let's just, go after everybody that's even remotely connected to the Trump administration, and let's just charge them all with treason. This is an intelligent way to go about things, right?
Asking them a lot of questions.
Keep in mind, he's not even technically a part of the Trump administration. He's a family member. He's like the first son. It's like saying that Melania Trump is a part of the Trump administration. No, she's not. She's just the wife.
Because this is unacceptable. This borders on treason. If it is not itself treason, depending on whether the New York Times story is true.
Wow. That is a former Bush official. Now, he's been tough on the Trump administration throughout, but those are about as strong a words as you can find. But he's not alone. Nick Ackerman.
Strong words don't mean truthful words or anything like that. So
is a former Watergate prosecutor. Let's see what he has to say.
Legal implications here. First of all, we've got a potential.
By the way, this guy never mind. This guy is just gonna play this up like bullshit, and you just spot the propaganda that he pushes like all the way through this.
Potential for actual treason. We've got Donald Trump Jr., the mini-me to the president.
See, if he had real arguments, he wouldn't be insulting Donald Trump Jr. This would be a serious tone and all of that. He's playing up the emotion here because he's got nothing.
Who is meeting with a Russian operative.
No, it's not a Russian operative. It's a lawyer that is a Russian, national, he was connected to her by a publicist, because Russian spies work with, I think it was a British publicist, all the time, and then she owns she has clients that are connected to Russian-owned businesses. It's so far from being a Russian operative. And she herself claims she's not working for or speaking on behalf of the Russian government, and she has never spoke to the Russian government about this stuff.
Thinking that he's going to get information on the Hillary Clinton campaign. Where do you think that was coming from? If this was a Russian operation, it was something...
He didn't know. That's what the meeting was about. He didn't even know what the information was.
It was coming through spying. So there is plenty of smoke here, and I think we're...
Well, he filled in the hole that it was Russian spying, but that's not necessarily true. So, and even if it was true, it doesn't mean that Donald Trump Jr. knew that. Being naive isn't breaking the law. Even if, you know, if I give him as much good faith as I can here.
We're getting close to the fire.
Okay, now, I'm going to use an analogy here that some will consider inflammatory, but it's an analogy.
If someone would consider it inflammatory and you know that, why the fuck would you say it?
Doesn't mean he actually did this. So I just want you to understand that, okay? If Trump or anyone had gone to another adversary of ours who they thought was spying in on their opponents and gotten information, it would be problematic. Now, say if I say the Canadians, you might say, well, yeah, but they're our allies, so is that really so bad? The answer would be yes, it is. It's still illegal. If I...
Okay, so basically, all these people, you know, all the funding Clinton has gotten in the Clinton Foundation, you know, all the people that Clinton talked to in, you know, Canada, Sweden, Norway, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, every time she talked to a foreign national, she's talked to Russian, she's talked to the Chinese. Every time she's talked to a Russian national, is she doing something wrong? God, you are a fucking idiot. Basically, if what they're saying, if this was actually illegal, what he did, then, you know, when people are running, and it's just his father was running, you know, when campaigns are going on, it would basically be treasonous to, or, you know, illegal to communicate in general. You could not communicate. The only people you could communicate were other Americans. You wouldn't even know who is an American and who is not necessarily. So this whole thing is ridiculous.
Say the Chinese, you say, okay, yeah, I get it. The Chinese might want to steal information about Hillary Clinton or maybe Trump, depending on who they're supporting, and give it to the opponent. That would be bad to work with a foreign government like that. What if I said another adversary? Like,
she wasn't working for a foreign government. The lawyer did not work for a foreign government.
Al-Qaeda. Imagine if Al-Qaeda had information that they had stolen somehow from one of the people running in the race, and they offered it to the other, and the other camp was like, sure. I mean, I'll just take a meeting with them and see what kind of information they stole on my opponents and see if I could use it in the election. I think people would be pretty pissed, right? I'm not saying that Russia is the same thing as Al-Qaeda. I'm giving you a range from Canada to Al-Qaeda to give you a sense that that is not something you do. You don't try to go get stolen information.
He was solicited. He didn't go out looking for information. There was no evidence that it was stolen information. He didn't even know what the information was. You know, that's what the meeting was about, to find out what the information was. I mean, the publicist gave a general idea of what it would be about, but what the publicist says does not does not mean that's what was actually said either. So you can only take the publicist's information so far, but even that, he didn't say he had like secret spy information that was illegally obtained.
Certainly from our adversaries or even from our allies from a foreign country to use against your political opponents. Yes, that is in fact illegal. And there's one last interesting theory here. It's from Lindsay Moran. She's a former CIA operative. And she's basically...
Oh, a former CIA operative, then this should be fucking convincing.
Saying, you know, they might have done this, the Kremlin might have done this just to get these idiots to show up. And if they do, then they have something on them. Even if there's no information to give them, you show up to this meeting, the Russians know that you showing up is in and of itself illegal, then they have the goods.
No, it's not illegal. It's not.
On you. If they wanted...
It's been a while. Let's go back to this. We don't know with certainty if what Donald Trump Jr. did is illegal. It's not illegal to show up at the meeting. The Russians have nothing on him because he showed up for this meeting. That added nothing that he could be blackmailed about. But even if it did, that still wouldn't make it illegal. You know, just doing something that gives Russia a reason to blackmail you isn't because of embarrassment or anything. That's Russia doing something wrong. That's not him doing something wrong. That's him being the victim.
To use that against you, maybe they could. So let me have her explain. She says, I have conducted background investigations. If you do not, and then she went on to talk about Jr Kushner's role, right? So she called that a trap, or a potential Russian trap. And then Jr Kushner did not disclose this meeting. He was in the meeting along with Donald Trump Jr. and Paul Manafort. And she says, since he didn't put it in his background check, she explains, as a person who's done this before, I have conducted background investigations.
Do you know how many people everybody that was around this campaign met with? Like an unbelievable amount. There's no way they could, remember everybody they met with, especially someone like this where it wasn't an important meeting at all, and he didn't even tell Trump Sr. about it. President Trump never even heard about it, apparently.
If you do not disclose meetings with foreign nationals, especially one promising dirt in exchange for something, that's a big deal. That's not leaving out an address you had for 2 months in college. It's raising a number of eyebrows and can result in a counterintelligence investigation, and it can get you locked up. Uh-oh. So now Donald Trump Jr. has...
Amazing how he's not locked up yet, right? After all this investigating for over a year into Trump Sr. and all of that. And finally they find this, and he's, we're talking about it in the media, but nothing's happening yet. So I guess we'll just wait and wait and wait and wait and see when he finally gets locked up. But I don't think it's going to happen, Shank.
Is lawyered up and is not answering questions about this anymore.
Of course, you're accusing him of fucking treason. Of course he's lawyered up.
His effort to get an attorney apparently a day too late, because he has already admitted that he was in fact looking for opposition research. He did go to that meeting. He did know what the meeting was about. And his excuse that, well, I didn't wind up getting the stolen goods is not a very good legal excuse.
So, actually it is, but getting beyond that, that's the bullshit from the Young Turks, which pretty much completely contradicts. I mean, this video predates this tweet, but it just shows you how this whole narrative is going the wrong direction for the Young Turks. But they're still going to push it. I mean, this is from July 12th. Now, I want to, this is the lawyer, Natalia. She's a Russian lawyer whose clients include Russian state-owned businesses. That's her connection. Now, it says here in Politico, I'm purposefully using a left-wing outlet for the people who want to be ridiculous about this. What is collusion? Is it even a crime? By fucking Politico. If anybody is going to go after Trump or Trump Jr., or people on the right, it's an organization like Politico that has obviously a leftist bias to it. We asked legal experts, former federal prosecutors, law professors, and more to help make sense of the situation based on the evidence that has been made public so far. Most were quick to note that collusion itself is not a specific federal crime. Did you ever wonder why? And this is for those of you, keep this in mind in the future, who, if you get a little confused about what the actual law is, when these media outlets are all stating 100 different laws, it's because it might be because what they're talking about isn't actually a specific crime. Like collusion, apparently, isn't an actual crime in itself. So you can't just go charge someone with collusion. You've got to go charge them with treason or some sort of breaking a finance campaign law, which is what they've, also wanted to go after Trump Jr. for. But that wouldn't lead to impeachment of Trump Sr., and that is like a very minor thing if you just go for... I mean, if they wouldn't have made this big of a stink about this and then went after Trump Jr. for... it would be a civil issue where he'd maybe get a fine. That's what they're hoping for. But, I mean, some were saying treason and all kinds of things. The reason they're saying all different kinds of things is because collusion is not a crime in itself. And I've given you videos before where Alan Dershowitz says this isn't a crime. So, fuck Cenk Uygur, fuck the Young Turks. They're wrong as usual. And this Donald Trump Jr. shit, even by Politico, by the Washington Post, which in my last video, by Alan Dershowitz, it's fake fucking news. Have a good one, guys.